You're listening to the Himal Southasian podcast, Partitions of the Heart, Conversations with Harsh Mander. This is Season 1, Muslim Life and Death in Modi's India.
Salam, Namaste, Zindabad, friends. I'm Harsh Mander, and I welcome you to this episode of our series, Partitions of the Heart, where we'll be talking about the state of the Indian Republic and questions of South Asia as well. I'm doing this with Himal. Himal is has an extraordinary history, 35 years it has been reporting about South Asia with the idea of both the intrinsic unity of all the countries that constitute South Asia, but also questions of equity and secularism. By all means, you should be supporting Himal as well. It's wonderful because I have with me today Dr. Syeda Hameed, Syeda Appa as I call her. Syeda Appa has emerged as a very important public voice in India today. She has many sides to her life and work. She's a social worker, a women's rights activist, a writer, a poet, a connoisseur of poetry as well. She was also held important positions in the earlier government. She was in the National Commission for Women and a member of India's Planning Commission for 10 years. And she's a very dear friend. And so Syeda, let me start. Your memoir came out recently, A Drop in the Ocean, The Story of My Life. And reading it, it was really, it struck me as a book that young people should read. And I hope our conversations also, because you were a young child when India became free. And there are fewer and fewer of us now who can say this. And in the way that you grew up, in your family, you also had a ringside view on much of what was unfolding in New India. So I wanted to start with just some memories of your early years, your childhood, but also as a young woman. In an India where India had become free, but after partition, the horrors of partition, 1 million people had slaughtered each other, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs. And yet there were a number of people and organizations who said that India should be a country for Hindus in the way that Pakistan was seen as a country for Muslims. And we could have gone that path, but we chose very differently. We chose that we would be a humane, equal, welcoming country, welcoming to people of every faith, every caste, language, gender, as equal citizens of equal belonging. And it was remarkable that we took that path. We had leaders like Gandhiji, we had Nehru. In the early years, we had Maulana Azad, we had Sardar Patel. So just imagine that you're talking to young people in South Asia and tell us about the India that was imagined and lived in the early decades of India's freedom.
You started off with my autobiography, A Drop in the Ocean. I think that, in a way, summarizes my life. Ghalib's very famous couplet, and I'll recite it in Urdu and I'll explain it in English. That is why the title. इशरत कतरा है दरिया में फना हो जाना. The ecstasy of a drop is to mingle with the ocean.
Wow. Yes,
इशरत कतरा है दरिया में फना हो जाना और दर्द का हद से गुजरना है दवा हो जाना. When the pain reaches a zenith, it becomes its own medicine.
Wow.
So when you ask me this question, I have not reached the point that when my pain is reaching a zenith now,
Yes.
but it's not become medicine yet.
Yes.
So that I have not reached that I've mingled with the ocean yet, but that is really the story of my life. And you have put it very, you have expressed it very well. I did have a ringside view, and today in preparation for this this encounter or this meeting that we are having, I read a book which was written by its publishing date was 1947,
Okay.
and it's called Niras Mein Aas, which is in hopelessness, hope.
Okay.
And it was written by my father's younger sister, whose name was Saleha.
But that's a very apt title because it was in the despair of partition. How did you look for?
Yeah, that is my, and I, thanks to you, I actually recounted my life, because my family comes from Panipat, and Panipat was, I mean, it was a symbol of Ganga Jamuni tehzeeb, the mingling, the Hindu, Muslim, the composite culture. Panipat was an emblem of that. Right from the time when the Muslims arrived in Panipat, and it was Qalandar Sahab, the Dargah of Qalandar Sahab, and then the Sufi Qafila came from Herat, and this was during the time of Ghayasuddin Balban, the slave dynasty. And the way it is recounted, and of course I was not eyewitness to that, but that was my
Tradition.
my tradition.
Your legacy, in a sense.
Everything was, composite. There was Muslims pursued their religion, Hindus pursued their religion, but there was a beautiful commingling of those two, and that is really the India that that was my DNA,
Right.
and then then of course, then
That was
whatever
your
I
DNA,
experienced.
but I was born 8 years after freedom, and that was my DNA as well. It was those early years. We're losing a thing of great beauty, but was it fragile? I mean, in the sense that the idea of Muslims belonging equally to this country, that was a resolve, and I think Gandhiji's last months of appeal and Maulana Azad to Muslims in India that this country belongs equally to you. I remember he said that Maulana Azad said, I am Indian and I am Muslim, and both these identities are, cannot be separated from me. His appeal from the ramparts of the Jama Masjid to India's Muslims. As somebody of Muslim identity, what was going on in their hearts and minds, those who chose India? I'd like to underline that. I remember right here in Jamia where we are sitting after when the CA protests started, and there was this assault by the police in the library and of Jamia. There was much anguish. The students were taken to the police stations. Me and other people stood outside, and next morning thousands of students had gathered here. And among the things that I said to them, I said that henceforward, do not let anyone ask you as Muslims to prove your love for this country. Least of all those who never took part in the freedom struggle. And I also said that you are Indian by choice. Your ancestors had a choice They could go to Muslim Pakistan or multi-religious India. They chose India. So you are the Indians by choice. The rest of us are Indian by chance. So those, I wanted to ask you if you can recount from your own, but your elders and people you moved with, those who chose India in that very difficult moment, what were their expectations from this country? What were their hopes? What were their fears in those early years under Nehru? Yeah.
In terms of my family, 90% of my family in Panipat
Right.
were one night, they were just herded into trucks and sent across the border
Right.
because that was the agreement between the two governments that Panipat, the Sharnaarthis or refugees will come to Panipat, and the Panipat people will go across the border. And but they thought they were just going. I mean, they didn't think that this was the end. So they left little notes on their doors saying, "We are just leaving for a while. We are going to my nephew in Bombay or something like that. But we will be back. We will be back." And with great trust for their neighbors, of course, their neighbors were like their own
Family.
like their own brothers and sisters and all. And they went across, and of course they never came back. They never came back. They just took whatever, and most of them were women because men used to work outside, and they used to come on festivals and holidays and so on. So most of the women and the children were herded into trucks and sent across. So that trauma was it was unbearable. The elders who were left, some of the elders were left behind, and I remember as a child I used to hear them crying at night. I didn't understand why they were crying because they were just like desperate, remembering and the anguish that they will have to leave, and ultimately then they also had to leave.
Okay.
But there was one component which decided to stay. And you took the name of Jamia, and you said Dr. Zakir Hussain and Maulana Azad and all. So these were two things. Maulana Azad on the steps of Jama Masjid, in that famous speech, he said that he gave hell to the Muslims. That why are you so scared? This is your country, and why are you? And they were.
Don't be apologetic about it.
No, and they were terrified, the Muslims, and he gave them hell. And he said, when I warned you this two-nation theory was wrong, to you, when I lifted my hand, when I lifted my pen, you cut off my hand. When I spoke, you cut off my tongue. When I turned, you broke my back. So then he lambasted them and then encouraged them. And the same thing happened when Dr. Zakir Hussain wrote, the people of Jamia were also desperate, and they were wondering they should go, they should stay. They were terrified. And Dr. Zakir Hussain wrote a piece called Qarar ya Farar. Either you are satisfied or you just run away.
Yeah.
And then that was the time that he knew there was a lot of, the hoodlums and all these bloodthirsty people were marching towards Jamia. This was in 47, and he phoned, or I don't know what was the means of communication, but yes, there was a phone, and Nehru rushed. And he just rushed with one person in the jeep, just one person and Nehru. And then he saw on the way Bhogal there was a Muslim shop being burned. So he took his walking stick and he ran and he beat up people who were. This was how it was. And he came to Jamia, and Zakir Hussain was sort of worried that Jamia people will start running away. So this was the communication. This was the hope, and this bunch of people who stayed, they were made many offers from Pakistan, no question, but they longed for their family. They were separated.
Families were separated, yes, and that pain would always.
That pain was unbearable in the women and the men who tried to take it very stoically, and it was. my great-grandfather was a man was a reformist poet and a great feminist. And he wrote about women's empowerment in about in 1874 or something. He wrote about women's empowerment. But the thing that he wrote, which is etched in my heart, is that tum agar chahte ho mulk ki khair, if you want this country to subsist or to exist.
Mulk ki khair means if you want the good of this country.
If you want the good of this country, na kisi hum watan ko samjho ghair.
Wonderful.
How would you translate that?
Then never think of any country person as not belonging.
And not belonging. Ho Musalman usme ya Hindu.
If the person is Muslim or Hindu.
Bodh mazhab ho ya ho Sikh bandhu.
If they were Buddhist or Sikh.
Sabko meethi nigah se dekho.
Look at everyone with
a loving eye.
Loving eyes, I think, yes.
सबको मीठी निगाह से देखो, समझो आँखों की पुतलियाँ सब.
Think of each of them like the pupils of your eye.
Like exactly. You're such a wonderful translator. समझो आँखों की. मुल्क है इत्तेफाक से आबाद. Ittifaq is, आपस में.
Yeah. So a country is somewhat like by chance people have come together.
Yeah. और मुल्क है इत्तेफाक से. Because of coming together, it's azad and it's abad. Both
because
free.
People have come together, it both has freedom and abad would be
prosperous.
Yeah.
मुल्क में इत्तेफाक होता अगर खाते गैरों की ठोकरें क्यों कर?
If we were really together, why would we have suffered in the hands of outsiders?
Yeah. मुल्क जब इत्तेफाक खो बैठी,
once the country lost its sense of togetherness,
अपनी पूंजी से हाथ धो बैठी.
Yeah, we lost all our wealth.
All our wealth.
Yeah.
So that was the time he gave that
he wrote this
warning.
When did he write?
He wrote it in about 1877, 1878 or
how
something.
Lovely, yes.
Yeah, because he died in 1914.
Okay.
So that's the the prime of his. So what I'm saying is that's the like there was a feeling that and this was like in Panipat. Chota sa, it was like Sufi center and Hindu Muslims, Karaldar Sahab and all existing together, and that was the spirit, and that was the time when somebody like him could give hell to the Muslims and give hell to the Hindus, and yet stand very tall.
Syeda, just I'm staying with this because I want young people in South Asia to remember those times. When we took out the Karwan-e-Mohabbat as a response to rising hate, people in Mewat, because Mewat had seen a lot of lynchings, said you cannot do this journey without spending one night in a village called Ghasera. And they told us that on December 19th, been a series of, in Bharatpur and so on, a series of large massacres of Muslims. And the Mewatis felt that they have no option except to leave for Pakistan. And Gandhiji, this was about 40 days before he was assassinated, on December 19th, went to Ghasera and spent the night there. And he made this appeal that this is your country and you must stay on. And from that day, they decided to remain. And they still celebrate December 19th there. It was so beautiful because they have folk songs describing, Bapu coming and telling them that this is their country, reassuring them. So, I mean, it was that moment when it was an article of faith that this is your country and you will be safe here, you will prosper here. I want to still press you a little bit but there was the memories of partition. There was, Hindu fundamentalism. There was Gandhiji's assassination. There was the RSS and the Hindu Mahasabha. Within that, in the first couple of decades, but there was Nehru who would go out with a stick and beat up people when there was a riot. I love that story because I was a district magistrate and I used to do precisely that. Just leap in, separate people, and you have them. Once you have that, and people would separate. People would get sobered down. So at that time, were people fearful or hopeful, or both, among the Muslims?
What is the time frame you're
I'm saying
looking
the
at?
first decade or two, the period of Nehru, let's say. Were they hopeful? Were
Oh,
they
very
fearful?
hopeful,
They
very
were.
hopeful.
What were their hopes?
Very hopeful that this is our country, this is our, we have chosen it, and they saw that, the leadership was so, it was impeccable leadership at
Yes,
that time.
yes.
Yeah. Now people can,
Say
people
anything
poke
about
all kinds of
Yeah.
slanders, but Nehru, Gandhi, of course, was that he was out of the picture. But there was Nehru, there was Sardar Patel, there was Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and a host of others. So we were like when we were in school, for example, the school assemblies. I was very small. School assemblies um, sang सारे जहाँ से अच्छा हिंदोस्ता हमारा, and we sang मेरे प्रभुवर मेरी तुझसे यही प्रार्थना है. Easily, no, absolutely no hesitation. The Hindu press, the Muslim press, and it was something which was just
I studied in Mayo College, which otherwise was problem. It was a school for princes and so on. We had a British principal, but our main school prayer was "Lab Pe Aati Hai Dua" by Iqbal.
Yeah.
And now it's being called a song for the madrasas, etc. So it was you do. I remember it as a very hopeful
how
time.
can a prayer like जिंदगी शम्मा की सूरत हो खुदाया मेरी दूर दुनिया का मेरे दम से अंधेरा हो जाए
Yes.
हर जगह मेरे when I shine the whole world will shine.
Yes.
And because of the fact that I exist, then the whole darkness of the world will dissipate.
Yeah.
How can a prayer like this be a Muslim or a Hindu prayer?
Absolutely, absolutely. So it was a time of hope, which was beautiful because it was still under the shadow of partition. It was still when families had been separated, but there was hope among the people who were Indian by choice, which was India's Muslims.
Yeah.
Syeda Appa, I know that your father worked closely with Maulana Azad, who was India's first education minister. There are many things that inspire me when I read Maulana Azad. One of them is this lovely speech he gave at some time where he said that if Angel Gabriel, I think, came on top of Qutub Minar, at that time Qutub Minar must have been
was very tall,
as
yeah.
high as you can think. He said Angel Gabriel would come on top of Qutub Minar and say that I can give you one of two things in 24 hours. Either India's freedom or Hindu-Muslim unity. Which would you choose? And he said, I would tell him I will choose Hindu-Muslim unity because he said that if freedom comes late, the Indian people will suffer. But if Hindu-Muslim unity breaks down, then all of humankind will suffer.
Exactly.
So what do you think? How important is the idea of Hindu-Muslim unity and how have we lived it? I mean, just some reflections on that. And why did he say humankind would suffer if Hindu-Muslim unity breaks down?
We are seeing the condition of, we are
consequences.
seeing it, we are living it every day. I think that Maulana Azad had a vision, and he was a deeply philosophical and also very practical. And maybe he saw what would happen.
What could happen?
What could happen. And therefore he said that, if an angel descends from the skies into Qutub Minar and says, I will give you 24 hours, I'll give you freedom, only if you relinquish Hindu-Muslim unity.
Yeah.
I would say, if Hindu-Muslim, if freedom is delayed, it will be a loss for India. But if Hindu-Muslim unity is delayed or it's not done properly, it will be a loss for the entire humankind.
Why did he say that?
आलम इंसानियत का नुकसान होगा. That's what he said. To get power, you have to divide,
Yes.
right? And you can get into the highest pinnacle of power. You keep dividing, and the British did that also. They divided.
And the India that we're seeing, and much of the world.
And yeah,
is-
exactly.
is going in the same direction.
So British did it, and it's happening. But Nehru and Gandhi and Azad, they kept on talking of and Hindu-Muslim unity, and if there were spectacular examples of Hindu-Muslim unity, like Dr. Iqbal wrote this wonderful poem called Ram, and I'll just quote you a few lines and maybe
I'll try to translate as you move on.
No, this is a translation.
Good.
But it's not nothing matches the original language. So he says, shall I recite it in Urdu or shall I recite it in English?
Right.
No, you recite it in English and I recite it in Urdu. Okay. लबरेज है शराब हकीकत से जाम हिंद, सब फलसफी हैं खित्ते मगरिब के राम हिंद, ये हिंदियों की फिक्र फलक रस का है असर, रिफत में आसमां से भी ऊंचा है बाम हिंद. और then he goes on, and then at the end he says, एजाज उस चिरागे हिदायत का है यही, रोशन तर अज सहर है ज़माने में शाम हिंद, तलवार का धनी था शुजात में फर्द था, पाकीज़गी में जोशे मोहब्बत में फर्द था. That was Ram. He was तलवार का धनी था शुजात में फर्द था, पाकीज़गी में जोशे मोहब्बत में फर्द था.
You translate.
And you translated.
No.
You translated. You can do it much better than I can.
So he says the cup of Hind overflows with the wine of truth. Philosophers of the Western world are its devotees, etc., etc. But towards the end, he says, thousands of angels have descended to proclaim Hind's name before the world, and proud of his existence, the discerning eye sees in Ram a prophet. A glow from this lamp of wisdom makes Hind's evenings more radiant than the world's daybreak. Valorous, brave, a master swordsman, in purity, in love, Ram was unmatched.
Allama Iqbal talking about the Prophet Ram.
And about Nanak.
Yeah.
What did he say about Nanak?
And I don't have the translation, but anyway, so कौम ने पैगामे गौतम की जरा परवाह न की, कदर पहचानी न उस अपने गौहरे यगदाना की. मतलब the people didn't realize what a great man he was. And so badqismat the, they were unfortunate people who didn't realize. So he lambasted the people and then he exalted Nanak. So I'm saying that, like these were, Dr. Muhammad Iqbal is also regarded as a national poet of Pakistan, and I mean, Khudi ka sirre neha la ilaha illallah, he said that also, and that means the secret of the whole Khudi, the ego, is la ilaha illallah, there is only one God. And also he said Nanak, and also he said Ram, So this was, and then there were these lovely poets who talked about Brindavan and Mathura and all, like the most renowned poets who happened to be Muslims talked about all the Hindu scriptures. Yes. And then Kumar Mahinder Singh Bedi Seher talked about, the great bond between Hindus and Muslims.
And Premchand's description in Eidgah of the namaz as collective namaz, he described it as a sight of such beauty and inspiration. Premchand. So it's a lovely passage. I don't have it here. So this was India.
This was India. I just want to tell you one. This was a poet of Pakistan called John Elia.
Okay.
And of course, he's now passed away. And when he came to, when he was from Amroha was in blood. He couldn't, he lived in Karachi, but his heart
was in
And then when he got down the tarmac, first
Amroha in Uttar Pradesh.
Amroha in Uttar Pradesh, and when he got down, the first thing he did on the tarmac is he bent down and went in a sajda and kissed that earth, that tarmac. I mean, he could have gone to Amroha and kissed it, and he said, "Mat pucho," and you have to translate it because it's just so lovely. "Mat pucho kitna ghamgi hu Ganga ji or Jamna ji."
Don't ask me, Ganga and Jamuna, how
कितना
sad.
हाँ हाँ
sad.
या क्या मैं तुमको याद नहीं हूँ गंगा जी और जमुना जी?
Don't you miss me? Don't you remember me, oh Ganga, oh Jamuna?
मैं जो बगुला बनकर बिखरा वक्त की पागल आंधी में.
So during the crazy tempest, I rose like a whirlwind.
क्या मैं तुम्हारी लहर नहीं हूँ गंगा जी और जमुना जी?
Am I not one of your waves, oh Jamuna, oh Ganga?
अमरोहे की बान नदी के पास जो लड़का रहता था,
On the banks of Amroha, the river
बान,
this little boy used to live.
अब वो कहाँ है? मैं तो वही हूँ गंगा जी और जमुना जी.
Where is he gone? Actually, I'm here still. Oh Ganga, oh Jamuna.
So moving, you know, I
Such a
really
lovely
have
thing.
tears in my eyes when I think of this man, this crazy man, and this symbolized.
Yeah. So can I say that I think that when he talked about humankind suffering, if Hindu-Muslim unity broke down, if there's anything that we can be proud of in our legacy, in our civilizational legacy, there are huge problems with this legacy as well. We have caste and gender oppression. But there's no civilization where people of different religions and identities from around the world have come and found safety and lived together with peace. And that's why he felt that if we are not able to live with peace, all of humankind will suffer.
When you say he, what do you mean?
Maulana Azad.
Acha, Maulana, acha, okay. I was thinking of John earlier.
No. Maulana Azad, when he said all of humankind would suffer, that's how. So, Zaida Appa, sadly we have to fast forward 60, 70 years into present times. India's Muslims, you said, were full of hope. Despite the shadow of partition and all its violence, despite the separation of families, this was their country, they belonged here, and they had dreams and they had hopes in the early decades. How do you see what is going on in the hearts and minds of India's Muslims today?
I can just give you one very specific example.
Right.
This way you're sitting today, Jamia, it was conceived by Dr. Zakir Hussain, Professor Muhammad Mujib, and Dr. Abid Hussain, and they were in Berlin, and they were all very modest students. Somehow they managed to get there, and they all got their PhDs and all that. And they met Hakim Ajmal Khan and Dr. Mukhtar Ahmad Ansari, two big leaders. And so they conceived the idea of making Jamia. The whole idea of Jamia was that it was going to be a composite culture.
Okay.
And brought, the teachers were from all over, Hindus, Muslims, from Kerala, from Karnataka, but very modest salaries and people who were committed to Gandhian ideals and all that. So they were brought here, and some of the most eminent artists also lived here. They taught in the art department and all that. Now this area has become a Muslim ghetto, and there are a large proportion of Hindus have sold and gone, and a large number of Muslims are looking for places here. So the whole concept of Jamia it has just become a huge Muslim ghetto. If you go out in the gullies, and there are innumerable eating places, I mean, all of those, those very typical Muslim things, which everyone comes here because it's the best cuisine available in the whole city. But that's not the point.
Yeah. Saida, but let me go back to where we started this conversation. It was after partition, freedom, the Muslims who chose India as their country, it was a time of great hope. Do you see hope still there in their hearts? You said there was no fear and there was hope. We're living in times where lynching, for instance, has become routine, genocidal hate speech at all levels, hate speech right from the very top, the breaking down of mosques, the difficulty even of praying in the open. Where do you think, where has India lost its way? And what is the place of Muslims now in the India that we seem to be missing?
You know, when you read Faiz Ahmad Faiz, for example,
Right.
and you read these lines, which I think are now universally known, दिल ना उम्मीद तो नहीं नाकाम ही तो है
Yeah.
लंबी है गम की शाम मगर शाम ही तो है. The heart is what?
Yeah, I mean,
Without hope, but it is nakam.
yeah, but the more important thing is that he says the heart is full of sadness in this evening of sorrow, but it is only the evening.
But I'm not sure if it's, I mean, to me, at this point in my life, when, the end is imminent, I don't think there is this, I can't see the dawn breaking anywhere. I be very honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think
And
lambi hai gam ki sham, magar sham hi to hai.
That's a really, really tragic place to be in, I think. I think back on, Maulana Azad's speech on the steps of Jama Masjid, or the promise that Gandhiji made to the Mewatis in Ghasira. Mewat has become now the center of lynching, and there's so much fear. In the sense of loss and betrayal of all the promises, do you see only despair, or is there some place for hope as well?
Tell me where's the hope. Tell me.
No, I'm asking.
I don't know. I'm groping. I'm groping. I can't see.
Do you think that the civilizational tradition that we have lived with for centuries will still overcome this phase where hate seems to be triumphant? Do you think?
I don't know. I can say that I hope and pray that future will, but I can't see this happening in my lifetime. You can see the reality.
Yeah.
You cannot deny. You cannot sort of give me a false hope. But but of course, the dua is, the prayer is that one day this will. But if you look at if you globally also, you realize what's happening across the world. You know the world better because you have also lived in Europe. I've only lived in Canada.
Yeah.
But you see what's happening in your.
The immigrant has now become the sort of universal enemy, even by not the far right, but even the center. And I mean, Kamala Harris was not able to say that we welcome immigrants. So yes, the world, people around the world are choosing leaders in larger numbers. They're choosing leaders who are teaching us to hate. And so I do see the despair. And Martin Luther King somewhere said that the arc of history is long, but in the end it bends towards justice. And I would say it also bends towards love. So yes, maybe not in your lifetime, and may you live very long. Maybe not in my lifetime.
No, in your lifetime for sure.
Yeah.
That's what my prayer is, that in your lifetime it should
But
happen.
certainly the young people behind the cameras just at this moment, I hope in their lifetimes they get back the India that we dreamed of.
I just think of this, the whole, the crux of it is the India-Pakistan.
Yes.
And I remember these lines, and I just want to, Tumao Gulshane Lahore se chaman bardosh. You come from Lahore carrying the gardens of Lahore on your shoulders. Tumao Gulshane Lahore se chaman bardosh, hamaye subha Banaras ki roshni lekar. फिर उसके बाद ये पूछे कि कौन दुश्मन है.
Translate the rest.
So we, तुम आओ गुलशन Lahore से, you bring Lahore, the gardens of Lahore, which are very famous, on your shoulders, and we bring the morning, the dawn of Banaras,
The
beautiful dawn of Banaras, हमारे सुबह बनारस की रोशनी लेकर, and then we ask, who is the enemy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let us end here with the hope, and I think there is almost a duty to hope. We must hope that we can give to our children and their grandchildren the country that we promised.
That would be the glorious end of my life for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Partitions of the Heart. You can find more Himal podcasts like the South Asia Review of Books and State of South Asia on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Support Himal's independent journalism by becoming a Himal patron today. We'll be back soon with another great conversation. See you then.